I'm not outside walking my ego and it's like going like, nah, it's not happening. I'm like, yo, I don't got the leash on this motherfucker. He just next to me. And when I stop, he stop. And if I say sit, he sit, you know, but I know he gotta be there. Like we're not moving him all the way completely. I'm not with that. But he understands his position. He knows that he got to follow my lead, not the other way around. So I try my best to maintain that.
I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music, and we could talk about the new song you have out and what else you have coming up.
For sure. Whatever, however you want to get into it, you let me know.
Cool. I did read. Are you originally from Chicago? Is that what I saw? Are you born and raised there?
So no, I was born in Chicago. I was raised partially in Jamaica.
Oh wow.
And also in Miami, Florida. And I lived in Miami till I was about 17, and then I moved to New York City to go to school. And I lived in New York for about 15 years. That's probably where I spent the most time in my life.
Okay.
And then I moved to LA about
when
10
did you, just to back up a bit here, how long were you in Chicago before you moved, then split between Jamaica and Miami?
I was only in Chicago. I mean, I was born there, and I don't have a lot of memories. Like, I mean, I was a baby, so I moved there I moved to Jamaica when I was, I don't know, like 2 months, like 4, 6 months.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. So
I really don't have a clue. I don't know. And then when I moved back to the States, I went back and forth. I spent summers in Chicago because my father lived in Chicago. So I would go and I would spend time with him there.
Okay. And then the rest of the time you were either in Jamaica or Miami?
Yeah.
Wow. What was it like? I mean, how much of the time were you in Jamaica? I mean, that must have been pretty different. I mean, culture shock going from Chicago back there.
Yeah, yeah, I experienced most of my childhood in Jamaica. So, when I was there, it was normal. I went to prep school. I was a pretty smart kid. I played sports, I played soccer, I was outside a lot. I remember climbing a lot of trees and shit, just like a regular fun childhood, being outside. And my family was really disciplined. My aunts and my uncles raised me for the most part, until I was about 8 years old. So I had a lot of cousins, so we played a lot, and music was kind of like one of the main things that was happening. They would take lessons. I would go with them, to guitar lessons, piano lessons, and singing lessons. And I kind of was just like a fly on the wall for a long time. And then I moved to Miami with my mom when I was about like 8, and then took up sports. I played football, I played basketball, I ran track for like 10 years, 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom was an Olympian. She ran for Jamaica. So
no way. That's incredible.
Yeah, so we're like deep in sports, athletics, and just that kind of lifestyle. And so I did that, and then I did music. So I did both.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're saying that you were kind of a fly on the wall. You'd go to your cousin's musical instrument, practices or whatever. Did you end up taking lessons when you either there or when you got back to, or when you moved to Miami?
Yeah, when I was in Miami, I was in the chorus, and I was fortunate enough to meet this woman named Miss Hunt. She ended up being my mentor from middle school all into high school. She taught me, through those years, and brought my attention to a lot of different styles of music, outside of R&B and gospel, which is what I was listening to in reggae. I started listening to a lot of jazz music and blues and classical. I started singing classical music, and yeah, that's kind of was my first entry into it through her, like as far as like the focus and the level of the dedication that it took to really want to be in it for the rest of my life. So I kind of decided that really early on in my life. So, I was always auditioning, singing talent shows, talking to labels when I was a kid.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, from what I was reading, I think you got like recruited, right, for a new school, or somebody kind of picked you out and said, hey, you should go to this. I wanted to go there for video editing when I was in high school into college. So I thought that was rad that you went there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was selected. I was in the Grammy Jazz Ensemble. My senior year, I got accepted to be in this Grammy Jazz Choir. And it was like 13 of us from the nation got selected, and I was one of the 13.
Oh my gosh.
And then we ended up getting recruited by like all these different schools, but I didn't really start singing jazz until then. So I didn't even know anything about anybody. So when I went to LA, when we were here, when I was like, I think it was like 2002, and I was 16, and I remember just everybody talking about Charles Mingus and Charlie Parker and John Coltrane, all these people I hadn't heard of any of them, and so I kind of felt like a little bit of imposter syndrome, like early on, because I didn't know anything about that, but then I just crammed everything I could. You know, I learned about everybody, and I listened to everything Miles Davis and anything I could get my hands on, Ornette Coleman, all kind of abstract shit, like whatever I could, Sun Ra. And then when it's time for me to get recruited, I wanted to go to UM, but I couldn't afford it. So and they wouldn't give me a scholarship. So I ended up getting recruited from New School and Berklee College of Music, and I didn't want to go to Boston because it was further than New York was, and it was really cold. So I just
colder than New York, right?
so I just ended up in New York.
Oh, so you wanted to go to University of Miami?
Originally, yeah, because that's where my teacher, my mentor, she went there.
Oh,
so
I was gonna say that's more of like a sport. I would think more for sports, right? You know, there.
The School of Music at Miami is amazing. It's amazing.
Okay, I haven't heard anyone, or maybe I just didn't put it all together. That's awesome. I'm just curious, real quick, to go back to your mom being a Olympian. She said she was a runner.
Yeah, she ran 100 meters, 100-meter hurdles, and the relay and long jump.
Damn. So when it came to like, could you beat her times or not even close? Like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you were like,
I'm fast. I was fast. No. When I was younger, for sure. Yeah, no.
No, I mean, just I'm just trying to, I mean, that's cool as hell that she's that fast.
Yeah, no, she's really fast. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from my mom because she was also, you know, she was my coach and my mom, you know what I'm saying? So I learned a lot of a very interesting parenting style. If she the coach, you know, if she my coach, you know, she's a lot harder on me than everybody else, but, you know, still understood like everything I was going through because she was home with me. So as far as like moving into a new country, you know, not.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Not, you know, like wearing regular clothes to school and being like, I thought I was supposed to wear uniforms. I don't know how to put on regular outfits, you know, like all these things that happen. Even like spelling and shit. Like, you know, in Jamaica, you know, it's British influence. So you spell color COLOUR. And so I'm taking all these spelling tests and I know I'm really smart, but I'm getting everything wrong. I'm really confused, you know, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, there's no U in color. I'm like, yes, there is.
Yeah, you're like, what are you talking about?
Even like theater is THEATRE.
RE, yeah. And then there's a couple other, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but yeah, it is interesting how it's the same language. You could understand it the same way, but just certain words are spelled a little bit differently.
It was definitely a lot, you know, like having to relearn certain things and then getting picked on for my accent. Come chat Jamaica, my yard boy, no, me talk patois still. So I talk like everybody look for me like, what? Oh, you can't talk like that. And so it's like getting picked on, like, and having to like learn to adapt. And you know, I lived in the hood, so I had to like learn how to talk a certain way, so no one would think I was a pushover. You know,
sure.
all these life lessons and adaptation that happened. You know, yeah.
When it came to songwriting, was that something that you started to learn later, like when you attended at the new school, or was that, but you were doing that beforehand? Like, when did you start writing songs?
I started writing songs when I was like 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I would write stories. So I would like draw these pictures and like tell a story about, you know, whatever character I would write, you know, so, and have like a bunch of these little books of like all these random stories about all these heroes I would draw. And, you know, my track team, we had like a relay race team and I gave everybody a nickname and I drew us all with muscles and, you know,
that's awesome.
I used my imagination early, you know, as far as like telling stories are concerned. And then that turned into poetry and letters. So I wrote a lot of poetry, and in high school, some of the homies used to ask me to basically write letters to girls they like for them.
So wow.
Yeah, like, so, but like lunch, you know, they lunch or like some money or whatever the case may be. So that kind of made me start realizing like, oh, this is like a skill. Like I'm good at this, you know. And then I started making mix CDs, like love mix CDs with the letters, you know, and I'm like, pay me extra because I got the mix CD for you and da. So it was like more from a hustler standpoint and me wanting to like figure out like how I feel. It's so funny you asking me because even recently I was going through all my stuff, like old letters I wrote when I was like 16 or like poems I wrote when I was like 16. And it's like very emotional person, you know, like always been very like, what is life? How do I feel today? Why do you not like me? You know, so that kind of transitioned into me writing my own songs and stuff, yeah, early on.
You had quite the business model back then. I mean, you
Oh,
like writing the
I
you're
was
writing
hustling.
the
Oh,
thing
yeah,
for and then
that's
you're
a
like,
the
let me throw in the mixtape
Oh nah,
for an additional fee.
that's the tip of the iceberg. I sold candy in middle school. I used to fish, like jump the fence and fish in these like man-made lakes and catch fish and go back to my apartment complex and sell it to all the Cuban ladies in my neighborhood who I knew was cooking. I used to go around the neighborhood with my friend and knock on everybody's door and ask them if they needed to wash their cars for $5. Like, yeah, nah. I remember y'all had man hustles. I used to jump in the water, get all the golf balls on golf courses that people would hit in the water, take them back home, clean them, go back over to the fence and sell them back to the golfers three golf balls for $1. So
That's brilliant. You still have a business model there with the poetry and like a mixtape thing. I mean,
that's an album. That is.
Oh yeah. Well, that's your album, right? But on the side, you're like, let me write you a love note. That's okay. So then you go. So you're doing that, but it wasn't a full. They weren't put into songs yet. It was just kind of poetry. Or when did they become? When were you like, oh, I should put melodies to this and write
sophomore year
songs?
high school. Sophomore year high school.
Okay.
Yeah, early. Yeah. I think I was in a boy group called Perfect Gentlemen. I was like the youngest. Everybody was a senior. It was like four of us, and there's 3 seniors and me. And yeah, we were singing all these Boyz II Men songs and all these old, Tyrese songs and all this stuff. So I was like, man, we should write our own songs, So I took a go at it. I started writing songs early. And then the first song I actually wrote for myself was this song. I remember it was my senior year. This girl that I was off and on with my senior year because she couldn't pick between me and this other dude that she liked. And so we was like in this like love triangle. And really interesting experience at 15 years old, 16 years old. And she asked me to go to the prom and I told her no. And then, because I was mad. And then like a week later, I was like, oh damn, like I kind of want to go to the prom with her. So I asked her again. And I was like, well, I can't just ask her again because I seen like, I don't know what I want. So I wrote this song called I'm Sorry. And I recorded it on my guitar and into my karaoke machine. And I gave it to her with a note saying like, "Yo, would you go to the prom with me?" She didn't go.
Oh man, I was gonna say, did you go with her? Damn.
No, she didn't
You're still
go.
pissed that you turned her down.
Yeah, no, she was very mad, but it's fine. We figured it out, but she just didn't want to go with me, so she ended up going with her homegirls. But I did end up really professionally recording that song like that summer. Like it was my first time in the studio, and it was like the first song I recorded for real. This guy took me to the studio. One of my mentors at the time, he was also my barber, but he was like a father figure to me. And yeah, I played guitar and I sang this song called I'm Sorry. He was like, I'm sorry for not being there. I'm sorry for acting like I didn't care.
I love that.
Right. I started just like that. I still remember that song.
That's so cool. So when you start going to school, were you going to new school at like did you join their jazz
yeah, I went for
choir?
jazz.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up because at first I was gonna take a semester off because I didn't, I was disappointed I didn't get accepted to UM. Like I couldn't go. I got accepted, but I just couldn't go because of financial reasons. And then new school hit me up. They had already been hitting me up, and then I talked to this woman, and she was like, "Yo, if I could put you in and get you a scholarship and get you straight and all that." So I was like, "Cool." So I ended up just like I remember packing a bag like 3 days before orientation, and just like going out there with like one bag. I didn't have nowhere to stay yet, but I had made some friends who ended up all going to the new school from Grammy Jazz Ensemble. So one of them is this artist named Fur that I work with. He was there, and so I ended up just crashing at his dorm for the first semester until they found me somewhere to stay. So that's kind of how I ended up there. And then I ended up having Bilal, the singer-songwriter named Bilal, as my trainer for most of the time I was there. Yeah.
Oh wow! So he was your like another mentor for you at college.
Most definitely, yeah. I learned an immense amount of things from him. At the time he had just put his record out, and he actually went to my school and dropped out to get a record deal and ended up getting a record deal and stuff. So, yeah, I learned an immense amount of things from him. Even on a spiritual level, he would say these things while we were doing vocal warm-ups and stuff that still stay with me, and kind of had me like be more interested in the spiritual realm than I was before, coming from a Christian Baptist background. Say like, you breathe in the room, you become the room. No, he said you breathe in to become the room, you exhale, you become God.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah, and so basically he was just always being like, stay present.
Yeah. Did you finish school before you put out your first EP, the Dopamine one?
No. I was out. Yeah, I was out. I graduated 2006. That came out what, 2008?
Eight,
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah.
that came out 2008. So that year after I graduated was interesting because I almost went back for music therapy. I almost went back for my master's in music therapy, and I was trying to decide if I wanted to or not. And I was like, I don't really want to have to go through having to pay like
Yeah.
find more.
Even
So,
more money, right? I mean, the master's
yeah,
degree, they even tag on more money. It's like, really?
yeah. So I ended up having just a bunch of odd jobs. I worked in this hospital as a clerk. I taught elementary school that year, kindergarten to fourth grade. Then I taught after school program, and then I just was doing a bunch of gigs. We would just play anywhere. I play in front of a boutique. I play at a park. I play at somebody's birthday party. I play at a restaurant. Like anywhere we could set up, we just played a bunch of gigs. 07. Yeah, and I toured. My first like real quote unquote tour was like California. This guy I knew booked me to play from like, Sacramento to the Bay, Oakland, Berkeley, San Fran. Then we played LA, and it was like my first kind of
Oh
experience,
yeah, like a
like a West
California
Coast.
tour. Yeah, and you could do a lot of cities in California all the way down, right?
Yeah, so we did that. I was like 21, I think, and then at the time I started producing my own stuff, and I was really intrigued by like developing people. So I would like record other people. When I was in school, we had a studio at my school, and I would like tell her, right, like pull up, and I would, you sing this and you sing that, and I would write these songs and produce these records with people. So that kind of made me feel like good, even if I wasn't making music for myself. And then I got dumped on Christmas. I got
Oh man.
dumped on Christmas 2007, and I was working on a album, and I scratched that whole album to write about this experience, about like, because I went through like a depression, like I lost my weight. I never felt this. I never felt it before, and it was so crazy. Like it was crazy how I was feeling at 21, and this person would do this to me. So when it came time for me to start writing, I started writing songs about the experience, but I couldn't write anything negative. Like all the songs on Dopamine are like, usually they're positive songs, or they're me admitting the things that I did wrong. And I found it to be so interesting. And so when I finished it, I was like playing it for my friends, and she was like crying when she was listening to it, because she knew the situation. And she was like, oh, this feels like dopamine. And at the time, I'm like, dope. I didn't even know what dopamine was. I was like, it's dopamine. And she's like, you should look it up, whatever. And I always been a big researcher, so I just delved into like how emotions attach to every blood cell on your body once you experience the hormones. I just got really deep in it. And then I released that album on Valentine's Day 2008. I remember that. Yeah.
Wow, it's an interesting approach, because like you said, I mean, you wrote them all about your part in the in how it didn't work out. I've never heard anyone do that.
Yeah, I think, I learned how to take accountability for my wrongdoings really early. I especially like, when I think about relationships and I think about what it does to art, I always want to be truthful to it, even if I'm unable to be truthful to the person in the moment, because of whatever fears, or, I'm trying to savor the moment, or whatever the case may be. Like once it's done, it's like, I can't hold back now. I already held back in the times I wasn't supposed to, so I honor art, and I honor music as much as I can. So that was like my first actual exercise in that. Since then I've definitely practiced being, completely, upfront,
Right. Yeah. No, I just find the fast. I'm in recovery, and that's one of the pieces of, like, if you're in the 12-step program, like finding, you might have a resentment towards somebody, but then it's like, what is, like, what caused it? Like, what is your role in it? Which is like, when somebody taught me that, I was like, holy shit. Like, it just blew my mind. I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, so fear was the reason why I was resentful. And you know what I mean? It's like that whole thing. And I think that's so cool that your album was set up that way. And
Yeah,
I think that's so awesome.
yeah. Nah, I'm glad you said that, cause you know, like love is an addiction. It's an addiction, and and whatever version of how you want to receive it, you'll do whatever you can to portray yourself like you're deserving of it, no matter what, and so like, and a lot of times in my life, when I'm thinking about what I want to express, a lot of it comes from that part, because ultimately when you're in a relationship, that's a reflection of you, whatever you allow, whatever that person allows is a reflection of where y'all at, and so that permeates into your other relationships, your work field, everything, how you think about things, your positivity, your negativity, like all these things are really, really like dependent on like how real you are in a dynamic, you know what I'm saying? So that's like the main thing, I feel like a lot of times is missing. It's like two people not being able to just have a conversation, like candid,
Right.
a convo. That's really what it like. I'm gonna go tell this person how I feel. I'm gonna go tell this other person how I feel. Make it seem like it wasn't my fault, and then I'm gonna do it okay too. And then all these people gonna be on my side because I'm right. And it's like, nah, they wasn't there. You're talking to all the wrong people.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you put that out, and then you did I mean, you've put out a handful of records or albums, right? And then two EPs, and you ended up getting signed to Def Jam for that, and they put out Bartholomew, which was I think like a SoundCloud record, right? Or you had it on SoundCloud.
Wow. Yeah, that's how. Yeah, you know that. Yeah, I put up on SoundCloud first. Yeah, I had a bunch of records that I did. This company called Lander kind of reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do something with them, like document my process. And I said, for sure, I'm actually making an album right now, so I'll let it do this with you guys. So they helped me, they funded it and rented out a house for me to make the music in. I built a studio space and in the house, and I invited all these people, and then I released it. But I took a lot of meetings before I put it up on SoundCloud, and everybody told me like, it wasn't, nah, it's not, this is too different, or, this is what everyone's going with right now. So all these major labels kind of turned me down, with the record, or told me like, we'll just wait to see what happens after you release it.
Oh, interesting.
And that was like the same year Scissor Control came out. And then I think Frank came out too, Blonde came out that year too. And so when Scissor Control came out, and they heard the music, and all these people who told me the music was that they didn't like the album, called me back to.
They're like, hey, this other one is hitting and it sounds similar. It's not similar, but it's kind of the same vein.
Yeah, so they listen to the same music and it's like, oh man, this is great. I was like, played you this 6 months ago. It's the same song, and so then out of everyone, I had the best relationship with this A&R named Noah Preston, really cool dude. And he signed Logic, and he signed August Alsino, and he signed Janae Aiko, and really stand-up guy. And I have worked with some of those artists that he had signed, from a producer and writer side. So I ended up just going with him, and he was at Def Jam. It was just tricky because I wasn't really, I was just excited, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't really paying attention like I should have, because, the CEO and the head of marketing ended up leaving, right? Like 3 months after I finalized my deal. And then that was around the time that Def Jam was trying to sue Frank Ocean for, for Endless, and then leaving Blind on Apple, so all this stuff was happening. So I was just like looking around like, I don't know what's going on. And I had been independent for 9 years. So
all the albums that you had put out prior to that one were all I mean, you even put that one out independently.
Yeah,
really,
I did. Right? I did this album called Zulu Guru with this label called Ninja Tune out in London. So that was like the one that I had like, label support, quote unquote.
Okay. And but with those previous albums and before having the Def Jam meeting and getting that, there must have been some, success. Like, could you think of some like a milestone from prior to that? I mean, not saying that you weren't, but I wanted to see if you can give me some. I'm just curious.
So many things. Yeah, like I remember, I toured man, I when I released the Beauty Crate album in 2008, even prior to that, we shot a video for the song Tabloids on Dopamine. And at the time, we didn't know what we were doing. We just made this music video. This idea I had. I wrote this treatment out. Never wrote a treatment. My boy never shot it or edited anything before, but we was doing everything else. So we like, let's do this too. We made this video, and it ended up being on the Billboard charts on BT Jazz under Erica Badu.
Damn.
Yeah, and we did that all independent. And I wrote a letter and sent the beta tape to the head of BET at the time, BTJ, and they ended up playing it, you know, and it was running for a long time. It ran for like that whole summer, and then I got a lot of gigs off that, you know, like I started playing DC, Baltimore, like Boston, like these people started hitting me up because they see me on this. And I was 22 at the time. So, you know, we just operating. We don't really know what's going on. We're just like, yeah, we'll go anywhere. Like, what you mean? What stage? Like, you know, it's my body. And then when we dropped the Beauty Creator album, Giles Peterson played one of my songs with Morris on BBC. And then I got like an international, you know, hit up like Australia, Japan, Germany, Africa, like all these people from all these different countries. Cause, you know, at the time he had so much impact worldwide, like South America.
Oh yeah.
And then, yeah, so I ended up touring Europe for the first time in 2010. I played London, Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin. I played in Bratislava in Slovakia. I played in Austria and Vienna. I played Vienna. I played Ghent in Belgium. I played all these different places in 2011, and then I got nominated for a Soul Train Award.
No way! I didn't see that. Oh, wow, that's crazy. That's huge. I mean, especially in your, I mean, being in jazz ensemble, I mean, the jazz Grammy, you know, group and all that stuff.
So I got nominated for a Soul Train Award, you know, in that time, and then and then I went back on the road again and I played Europe as much as I could. I played Poland and I played in Russia and I played in Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia. I played wherever country told me they wanted me to come play. I played, you know, I played in Tokyo a couple times. I played in South Africa. I played in West Africa. I played Toronto. I did like, you know, I did all these things, and then yeah, that's when I did the deal with Ninja Tune for the Zulu Guru album. Then we toured again, and all Europe and, you know, parts of Africa, and then I did an album called Love Apparatus with this producer named Machine Drum, and I released it on Empire, and then that's when I tried to start crossing over in the States and doing more shows here. So I did like my first American tour for real, like in 2014. And then that's when I moved to LA, that's when I started meeting all everybody I collaborated with. So like I met the internet. Like I known Sid for a while, but we had never met. So I met Sid and Matt from the internet, and then they introduced me to Steve Lacy, and I started working with Steve Lacy, and then I met Calvin Harris through Steve Lacy, and I worked with Calvin Harris and Charlie Puth, and I just started, you know, Tinashe and like all these different artists, you know. Masego, I executive produced Masego's last album that just came out, and I did all the creative direction. It's just like when I got here is when all these people who, you know, have been listening to my music for such a long time, you know, had access to me. I was in New York. I didn't know, you know. Me and Miguel had been friends for a really long time via MySpace. You
know, that's awesome.
Long time. Me and him, you know, we used to send messages back and forth, and then he finally, you know, released an album, and he came to New York, and I met him for the first time in 2010. And when I first moved out here, I was with him a lot, you know, and so I just try to learn this side of the industry because it's so different from New York. My experience in New York is so different from what LA is like. I'm still adjusting. You know?
When it came to like collaborating with all these artists, I mean, you were kind of working with them on their projects, and were you always kind of doing your own solo? I mean, doing your own project at the same time?
Yeah, I'm a hyper creative.
Okay.
I make things, you know, it's not just music, you know, I direct, I'm a commercial director, I direct music videos, I write treatments, I design, I do a lot of things. So so I don't, you know, I think collaboration is a big part of growth, personal growth. You know, I think that really helps you learn what you like and what you don't like about who you are around certain personalities, and how you can strengthen those relationships based on what you learn in those relationships, you know. And you know, so that's I'm just more so about progress. So, you know, I make things to progress.
Love that. And you just put out a new song, Honestly I'm a Threat, and with that, is that going to be part? Well, I want to hear about that song, and also want to kind of find out, are you working on like another EP or an album or anything?
Yeah, so yeah, I have an album coming out next month. Um I've been working on it for a while, and I'm releasing it independently.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it took me a while to get out of my deal with Def Jam, and then pandemic hit, and then
Oh,
prior to
okay.
shit.
So was this started before you started working on the album before the pandemic or during the pandemic
Oh
or?
yeah, no.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm a threat. I wrote that song in 2015.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah,
Wow. So
I just
going into the like, did you just hold it because of all the legalities behind all the other stuff?
yeah, I just yeah, my art is sacred to me, so I didn't want to. I wasn't trying to. I was trying to make sure I was in a good space so I could talk about the things and be happy about what I'm making and celebrate the things I want to give to people, not be bitter or jaded or grumpy while I'm trying to share my art. I don't want to feel like that one as an artist. So that's what I was feeling. I was feeling I had a lot of energy in me that wasn't necessarily productive or contributing to my art. So I had to like move it out the way.
Okay. And
Yeah.
when with the like the pandemic and all that, how did that affect the album? Were you in the midst of recording it, or this has kind of just been a project that you've been, working on as you do all the other things that you do?
No, I'm super intentional. So I wrote a script. I wrote a short film uh a while ago, and it helped me basically figure out what I wanted the songs to be about based on the script that I wrote. So my album that's coming up is ultimately a soundtrack to the script that I wrote.
Wow. So
Yeah.
there's like a concept behind the whole thing.
Yeah, so basically the album's about it's about semi vulnerability.
Okay.
It's like I feel like it's easier for women to be completely vulnerable and authentically them, and just based on everything, how they were brought up, the ways in which women communicate with other women, like the fact that they're more in tune with their emotions way earlier than we are. Like there's all these things that they're supernatural. They start being supernatural from 13, 12, whenever they
Right.
first experience their first cycle, and then they learn themselves, and then we don't, that's not necessarily our thing. So
Right. I was gonna say I'm still trying to learn that. I'm almost
yeah,
40.
yeah. And so I think that, you know, it's I was trying to think about, if I knew any men, and that facing the public that were completely 100% vulnerable. And I only could think of a couple, and to me, vulnerable just means you speaking your truth, regardless if people agree with it or disagree with it. It's just what you feel, how you feel, what your views are, whatever. And I feel like a lot of times that we don't get to do that, and it's also because we don't want to show our cards because we don't want to seem weak too, because
Mm,
this world we live in, as a man, you go out, you hunt for the same lion, somebody else, like you a lion, it's another lion next to you. Y'all gotta go get a mammoth. You're not gonna tell him your ankle hurt.
sure.
You're not gonna say, "Hey, yo, I know we gonna kill that mammoth. My ankle hurt. Are you gonna give me a piece if you kill it before me?" Like that's not. I would love that to be the case,
Yeah.
and sometimes it is the case, but very rare. It's like if a shark smell blood, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, he's gonna get it.
And so it's very hard for me to be completely vulnerable, like 100% vulnerable, no matter how much I want to be, based on all these things I'm trying to unlearn. But I do want to be, so I try for it. So this album's about that. It's about me being as vulnerable as I can be right now with what I have and based on where I'm coming from. So that's like, so I wrote it. I write a song like "No Pussy for Losers," and I'm talking to myself, because at one point in time, I'm a loser. I'm not doing the things I should do to feel I deserve these things I think I deserve. I need to be accountable for that. I'm a right. Honestly, I'm a threat. Yeah, because some days y'all try to tell me that I'm not. My concept of my self-worth is not what it's supposed to be. Oh, nah, that's not happening. Like, I don't care if y'all think I'm cocky. I don't care if y'all think I'm crazy. I don't care if y'all think I'm arrogant. It don't matter.
Mhm.
Like, I know how I feel about myself. So I'm gonna write a song like that. I wrote a song called "Whoa" on my album. It's like me saying that I was mistreating somebody. Like, I was unconcerned about how they felt, but I still maintained them loving me because I liked feeling love. That's not cool. That's manipulation. So I wrote a record about it because it's happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what the album's about, just being a man, being semi-vulnerable.
Yeah, and owning your shit, right? I mean, like just being like, yeah, this is what happened, and here I am being vulnerable 100% and telling you what this is the story.
Exactly. You know, I made a mistake, and I'm trying my best to learn from these things that I you know, these ways that I thought I was healthy operating, and now I'm learning that all these things weren't that healthy.
Yeah. Wow. It's I love to hear that. Just your story. It just reminds me so much of just, not even going back to the, the recovery thing, but it's just like the 12 steps of just like hearing you say that is like, that's what they try to pound in your head.
Yes, it's
You know
true.
what I mean? Yeah.
It's true, you know,
but it makes so much sense. And then it's like, damn, like it all clicks.
Yeah, you got to kill the ego. Like, I always say, I'm never killing my ego all the way. Like, it's in the room with me, but it's trained. I'm always like, if I go, hey, ego, it's gonna hop up. But I'm not outside walking my ego and it's like going like, nah, it's not happening. Like, yo, I don't got the leash on this motherfucker. He just next to me. And when I stop, he stop. And if I say sit, he sit, but I know he gotta be there. Like, we're not moving him all the way completely. I'm not with that. But he understands his position. He knows that he got to follow my lead, not the other way around. So I try my best to maintain that.
I love that. That is like, I'm so happy that we just had this conversation. Like, that's something I need to know. Like, remember, like all the time. Like,
it goes with like when people, you always have this like crazy version of yourself you're trying to be. I always tell this reference to people I work with and people around me. I'm like, look, like, I want to be this crazy executive artist, fund to create whatever access to whatever artist's vision they got. And, and I'm going to work towards that, but I'm not going to make myself feel bad for where I'm at today. So what I say is I go, as long as that person I see in my head is in the room with me, as long as I go, oh, there you go. Like, the vision is still the vision. Like, I can still look at you and go, oh, all right, cool. We still in here. I know, I got to do this first, but don't go nowhere. Now, if I look in the room and they're not in there, or if I'm walking on the street and they wait, I'm like, that's what I never want. So as long as I feel like I got grips on what I know I got to take care of on a day-to-day basis, and then I know what my end goal is, I'm like, cool. And we got a relationship. I'm like, bet. Do I feel like I'm gonna be that person completely? Probably not. But I'm gonna get close, and I'm gonna stay as close to it as I possibly can.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Jesse, for doing this, man. This has been such a cool conversation. I really had a great time. And just the wisdom you've been spitting has been insane. But I have one more quick question for you, kind of based on that same thing. But if you had any advice, if you're talking to like a aspiring artist or something that wanted to try to do something as far as art went, or music or producer, what would you, what advice would you give them?
Man, I think it's really important to know 3 things. For me, it's like, why? So I think in the business world, they call that like a CTA, like a call to action, or like a manifesto. It's like, why? Because some people, they reasoning why will probably tell you if they really mean what they say, or they really about what they say they want to be about, because that's something to think about. Not because like, oh man, it's cool and I love it. It's like, nah, that's not enough. That's not enough. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is like, I used to motivational speak to high school students when I was in New York, and I would say like, all right, I got questions for y'all. What's your favorite? Who your favorite rapper? And somebody be like, oh, Lil Wayne. I'm like, oh, I love Lil Wayne. And I'd be like, who's Lil Wayne's favorite rapper? And I'd be like, I don't know. I'm like, no, you can't name me not one, maybe, no, nah. I'm like, so how is Lil Wayne your favorite rapper if you don't know what he like? It's like I would go, yo, what's your favorite flavor ice cream? And they go, pistachio ice cream. I go, okay, name me all the ingredients of pistachio ice cream. And they go,
yeah.
It's like So I'm like, if you really want to do something, you gotta study this. You gotta get your education up. Some people go in here and I'll be like, who your favorite artist? Like Drake. I'm like, all right, come on now. We got Pink Floyd, we got Coldplay, we got Radiohead, we got Rufus Wainwright, we got Regina Spektor, it's like, come on, yo, we got Feist, we got
James. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Oh, we got Peter Tosh. We gotta get our library up. Like, if you really say you want to do what you want to say, you better get the language together. Like, a lot of people come to this and don't got the language and then wonder why the sustainability not in there. It's like, because you didn't go far back enough. You know, like, you gotta be a historian to a degree, and you gotta appreciate all these different people, you know, for the reasons why they were appreciated. You gotta find out why, you know. So that's like my second thing. And the third thing is like, it's gonna be a certain level of sacrifice that you're not gonna be able to explain to people close to you. And you're gonna waste more time trying to explain it than just actually just going and doing it. So you should just go do it. Leave the explanation for after. Bringing it backward.